are live, everybody. Seth here. Seth, how are you doing?
Yes, up. You want me to be honest?
As much as it can be good for the show, be honest.
Asaf, I'm doing great. The world outside seems like it's burning. It seems like there's so much
Hmm.
craziness going on in the world. Thank God we have the wisdom of Kabbalah. Thank God we understand what is going on. Thank God we understand why it's going on. We're going to talk today about what's going on in the world. We're going to talk today about love.
Thank God
We're
we
going to talk today.
understand what God is.
Thank God we understand what God is.
Thank
That's a
God
good
we
one.
understand God.
So we
So-
have Bright with us. Thank God for that. Okay, so Bright is with us in the chats. Everybody, you have a question for us? You want to get a message to us? We're checking. I'm looking now, but you can get for sure. Find Bright or just write something in the chats. He's monitoring everything. So thank you, Bright, and let us know where you're from. I see Onur. Hi, Onur. Don't recognize your name, so maybe you're new here. Hello, Ray in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Katya, Cece. Hi, Cece. Okay, so let us know where you're from.
yeah,
We are happy to be together with you.
David is
It
here
is
from
Dave,
Quebec.
Dave, David is here in on YouTube.
YouTube, yeah.
Okay, David, we
And
need to have a talk.
we have Hannah
Okay.
from Denmark. Hello.
Ah, hi, Hannah. All
Yeah.
right, Saf.
Yeah,
I
go
think I
ahead.
think my
Hit
I
me.
think my okay. I'm ready to hit you. I think my first Kabbalah Congress. I think it was 2005. And there was a lesson about the four phases of direct light. I think that was like the first. So I had found a book by our teacher, Attaining the Worlds
Wait,
Beyond.
wait.
Before
You
that,
you just threw something into the air. You know,
what's that?
four phases of direct light.
I'm
It's
gonna
like
get to it. I'm gonna
you
get to it.
threw it like
Relax.
nothing. It's like only the template of the whole structure of the whole
Okay,
reality.
so
Yeah.
my first experience sitting in front of our teacher, he starts explaining the whole template of the whole reality. And it's the four phases of direct light are it's like the blue it's not like it is the blueprint of creation where light cascades down from above and it goes through these four special phases until
Right.
we get here from these four phases we get the four parts of the soul, the four spiritual worlds.
Yeah.
When we learn this pattern and we become familiar with it, we begin to see this pattern in all of reality. We see this pattern in how our thoughts develop. We see this pattern in how our desires develop, in all of the processes, in every action. This is how the upper abundance comes down and clothes into our world. Okay, so of course, I didn't understand a thing that I was hearing. But there was also talk about the creator's bestowal and his love. And I had all these imaginations about what was going on. So I raised my hand. I had long hair at the time. I was either wearing a turban or some kind of hat that like all my hair was up inside of it. Um, and I was very nervous. I raised my hand and so I asked Rav Lightman, I said, okay, this is all how the creator's love comes down and we need to bestow to the whole world. And so I said, what about the starving children in Africa? That was my first question in
I think I,
2005.
I think I remember that. Or
So
I
the
think I
count,
think I saw
it
it in
was
a
only like,
video even. Yeah.
you saw it in a video?
I think
That would,
so.
that
I
would be
think
funny to
so.
see. So,
Yeah.
so, I'm like, I've made it to the wisdom of Kabbalah. I found a real teacher. He's explaining the structure of creation. Now I want to know how do we take care of the everyone on earth, so what about the starving children in Africa? And he looked, he's like, you didn't understand anything I said. And then he moved on to then he moved on to whatever was more
So
important and
good.
going on next. Yeah.
So good.
So good. So I stuck around. um, we see in our world that after the light completed its descent, down through those four phases and these other processes, and the
Yeah.
vessel shattered in what is colloquially called the Big Bang,
Right.
there's a process of returning back up. So then it had this shattering, and then we have physical reality. So before that, there was no physical reality, and then as the physical reality starts to develop, it develops according to these exact same four steps, of course, from below down. So now it's developing from the inanimate, like rock and minerals and fiery lava, and after a couple billion years it turns into vegetative. That would be the second one, and then animals, and then humans. It's that same four phases. If anybody who we can see these four phases anywhere, anyone who has ever, looked in any of these books, they might have seen the letter Yud and Hey and Vav and Hey. That's it. All extends from there. So
Yeah, everyone has
now,
all kinds of theories about the name of God, and there's all kinds of mystical ideas around it, and then comes the wisdom of Kabbalah, and all of a sudden, there's like, oh, this is like an actual kind of science. There's like an actual structure behind these letters that they symbolize. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
okay, so when we look at, so let's look at humanity now. Where did all of humanity come from? So these four phases, we have the inanimate, vegetative, animate, and speaking. But in every process, in the inanimate, these four exist. In the vegetative, these four exist. They exist in everything. So when we look at humanity, we could, so if of course all of humanity comes from Africa, we can go back probably a few 100,000 years. My geology, my whateverology I'm supposed to know isn't super accurate, but at least 100,000 years. There's kind of walls and stuff that were found in Africa, so there was
Yeah.
some kind of man, let's say 100,000 years ago. I don't know if I'm off by 50,000 years or something, but black, black. Okay, all of us come from Africa. After Africa, um, so if Chinese culture is 8,000 years old, so there was people there before the kind of culture developed, so that we call that yellow. And however many thousands, but that would be next. Red would be South America, okay, and white would be Europe, the last one to develop. So now, before we go any further into that, okay, so for some reason,
All right.
humanity and all we've been talking about and all the wisdom of Kabbalah talks about is unity. One. We're all one. We're all unity. We have to behave like one. We have to behave like one body. We're all one body. We're one man. We're one heart, right?
Yeah.
But we're all specifically very, very different.
Mm-hmm.
We're all specifically, nature specifically. Our goal is to be one, but nature specifically made us different. In fact, our differences mimic the name of God, mimic the blueprint of creation. Our
Mm-hmm.
differences
Yeah.
are all exactly according to the name of God. I don't want to say it in
Uh,
some like kooky way.
I would say, our differences, the fact that there are differences and even opposites, clashing differences between human beings, is embedded in the thought of creation, in the very structure of creation, and therefore it is evident in who we are and in what we are. It is part of reality. It is in the very structure and fabric of reality. So there's a very unique reason for it. Yeah.
When it goes from Chokhmah to Bina, when you go from the first phase to the four phases of direct light, each one is opposite the one before it.
Yeah.
It's like a totally different thing,
Let me
but it's
interpret you for our audience for a second. Seth is
please.
bringing up all kinds of names like Chokhmah and Bina that sound weird, and he's talking about again, that
Just these
structure.
four phases, just names of the four phases.
Yeah, 10 Sfirot, four phases, Tree of Life. Some of you have heard maybe one of these terms here or there if you're interested in the wisdom of Kabbalah. So Seth is talking about what it actually is.
So, Asaf, let's talk about love, okay?
Okay,
Because that's
I'll take
that's
that.
that's that's what we're here. That's what this whole thing is about. We can't do anything with all these different colors. We can't do anything with all of this hatred between. In fact, the hatred is growing so much that people hate themselves. People can't even stand themselves today. The correction, the
Yeah.
good future, our good I saw somebody, he commented on something I wrote on Facebook. I wrote about love and something, and this person wrote, you can't, you're forbidden to write that. We have to go back and make amends for all of the wrongs from centuries
Mm-hmm.
of crimes. Asaf, it's not centuries of crimes, it's forever of crimes. I mean,
Mm.
if you go back and look at history, this lion ripped the face off of that zebra, and this bacteria ate the thing, and this everything in nature is constantly overtaking the next thing. And you
Yeah.
go back 100,000 years to Africa. I don't know at what point people started fighting each other, but there was fights there. And then you go to Asia and yellow was killing yellow. And then you go to the Mayans and the Incans and the Aztecs in South America, and they were
Mm-hmm.
scalping each other. And they were in I think I don't remember where. Maybe it was Asia. There was a thing where they used to flatten their heads as part of like somehow how they related to natural forces or whatever. They, of course. So a
Oh,
more modern
some
thing we
pagan
know about would be
stuff.
like binding feet. Like
Mhm.
there was horrible things. I mean, it was culturally, I guess, appropriate at the time, but people did stuff to people, not just for hundreds of years,
Yeah.
forever. So we our method is not trying to go back in time to fix something. Our method says love covers all crimes. That is the method of the wisdom of Kabbalah. We are all specifically different. We are
Yeah.
intentionally all different. We started the show talking about these four phases, that everything in reality is built of these four. um, from these four phases, humanity splits into these four phases. We're all specifically different. Now, what does it mean to love? Does it mean we're going to mush everybody so that everybody's the same? Does it mean that we're going to somehow create some kind of law that, so what do you do in America? You make a law that one color is supposed to be able to have enough people come into for example, in a college, right, in a university. So there's not one color is underrepresented. But if you really want to be fair, you have to represent every color, or every nation. So it becomes unmanageable. Life is not. You cannot, from inside the ego, we cannot manage all of our differences, and the hatred is gonna grow between all of these differences. Our work is to show that there is an umbrella of love. We have to cover everyone with an umbrella of love, and that will save us from a third world war,
Mm.
from a horrible
Let,
eruption of
let's
hatred.
let's add some meat and flesh and I don't know whatever into that word love, shall we? Like what?
Let's.
Yeah, like when we say love from a Kabbalistic point of view, we're not talking about some human quality. That's a very important distinction, I think. Like we're not talking about some nice behavior. That might be an outcome, sure. But we're talking about an actual discovery of a certain binding principle of nature that is capable, a quality of nature that is capable of taking minus and plus and creating a current between them, that is capable of taking male and female and creating life, that is capable of taking black and white and creating harmony. That is the kind of love that we're talking about. It is love in which the opposites complement each other into a higher level of life, a higher level of harmony, and it's only possible if nature gets involved. And so the reason that we're so opposite to each other is that we, for nature, we're like Mother Nature's children. And so we were given this situation so that we try to build it ourselves, so that we try to bring the opposites together. And as long as we don't try to do that, we're not calling on Mother Nature to work with us. We're not inviting that connecting force of nature to work between us. And so we need to work towards that. And as soon as we begin to do that consciously, then nature will start stepping in. Nature will get involved. It's what does it mean that it'll get involved? Evolution just happens when you look at the still and vegetative and animate levels, these plus and minuses, ebb and flow, heat and cold, and male and female, and contraction and expansion, and inhale and exhale. You have these two opposites always working together to create the next level of life. When it comes to human beings, though, we are required to be consciously participating in this process of creating the next level. And that's why we find ourselves baffled with experiencing all these clashes and conflicts and differences between us if we don't realize that what we're supposed to do is call upon nature to help us bind them together.
A simple example is if you took a body, a minute after it dies and a minute before it dies. It's like almost exactly, it's basically the same thing. It probably weighs almost the same, looks the same, all the same organs, but one has this added thing, this life force
Hmm.
going through it. That's what we're talking about. That life force. If you just looked at the body, took a picture of the body, it's got the same limbs and everything, but it's
Mm-hmm.
missing that life force. And what humanity needs running through it is this life force. And we're not, the thing about being a human is we're not developing like chimpanzees. We're not developing like squirrels. That's nai, right? In Hebrew, it's nai.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, yeah. We're not developing like trees. We have to consciously bring
Mm-hmm.
that life force together. So we talked about electricity before, that you take the power cord, and you have all the power coming from the street, and you put it in, and here something resists the electric and uses it.
Yeah.
It resists it and
Regulates
uses it.
it. Yeah.
So between the colors, all of these things, all of the hatred that we see now outside, specifically from this we build love.
Yeah.
Love in spirituality doesn't mean, okay, how about this? I love fish. I love fish, right? Or
Yeah.
no, it means I get pleasure when I eat fish, right? Or, oh my God, I love her so much. No, what that means is when I'm near her, I feel good, right? We're not talking about the regular, which all those things are nice. It's good to eat fish. It's nice to have someone next to you that you love and care about. But we're talking about a love that's capable of bringing peace to all of creation, to all of humanity. That doesn't mean that simply that I use another for my own temporary satisfaction. It means that taking these two opposites and from them generating a power, which is this power of nature, which needs to be brought into here. At some point when you're ready, let's read this Bala Sulam quote. So you tell
Yeah.
me
Let's
when you're
just
ready
do
for
it.
that.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay.
We
Before we do that, you want
let's
to you
pull
want
it
to do
up.
a global check here, because it looks like we have
Absolutely.
unbelievable representation here.
Yeah, we're just talking about, all the different flavors and colors and opposites and differences coming together, and you can really see that where it's kind of happening on this show. So, that's just amazing to see. Thank you everyone who's joining us right now from Angola, from Quebec, from Miami, Nigeria, Colorado, United Kingdom, Denmark. We have friends from St. Louis, Germany, Los Angeles, British Columbia, Israel, North Carolina, South Carolina, Brazil. We also have friends from India, from New York, Turkey, Connecticut, and South Africa, and Iowa, and Norway, and that's amazing because
That is incredible.
that is incredible because you friends are, and Minneapolis. I was just told in
Wow.
this. Yeah, that's amazing because, and Washington, because all of you guys and gals, we're working on finding that higher level, on rising above the daily mundane view of things. There's a bunch of very, very crazy things that are happening right now in the world, as we started saying in the very beginning. And what we're doing here is we're building a field of unity that is capable of lifting everyone else with us. You know why? Because all of humanity is interconnected. We're all dependent on each other. We're all one thing. We are a collective species, and even if we're not aware of it, we are indeed like those other social species, like, flocks of birds or schools of fish that swarm together and have some sort of a collective mind. Only in our case, we have to discover it of our own accord, and that's why we go through such a mess in this world. But we, the people from all these places right now, are beginning to recognize it and realize it and rise higher and take everyone else with us,
we're,
whether
we're,
they
we're
are
not
aware of it
scared
or
of
not. Yeah.
we're not scared of these changes. We're not scared of these differences, specifically because we are different now, and specifically to the extent that these differences are revealed. That is the extent that we can reveal the love, and we must now take control of our development and put ourselves into an environment like this show with Can you imagine to be in such an environment just on a Sunday afternoon with people from all of these, from all over the world? I see also Kika from Mexico is here, and Ada.
Massachusetts as well. Denise, hello.
So
So let's pull up that quote
yeah,
from
okay, here we
Balasulam.
go. Here we go.
Okay, this is guys. Seth and I saw. We went over this quote in our daily Kabbalah lesson today, and we just immediately texted each other, going like, "Wow, this is like we gotta read this and really go through it with the viewers of the quarantine." It's amazing to see that a Kabbalist. This is written almost 100 years ago, like probably about 80 years ago, something like that. Can't remember exactly when this article, Peace in the World, was written, but a lot of like not right now. And yet, as we'll read it, you will see it is so relevant, so pertinent, because the Kabbalists tell us about how the dynamics of the human family are working from within, and that's why it's timeless. You want to read? I'll read. What do you feel? Oh, okay. So check this out. In this article, Peace in the World, Kabbalist Balasulam writes this: everyone must thoroughly understand and explain to his surroundings that the well-being of society, which is the well-being of the state and the well-being of the world, are completely interdependent. That's exactly what everyone here is doing right now. We're showing that to each other. We are protesting the human ego and demonstrating love. And we're doing that consciously. And so, he says, as long as the laws of society, however, are not satisfactory to each and every individual in the state, and leave a minority that is dissatisfied with the government of the state, that minority conspires under the government of the state and seeks to overthrow it. So again, he's not throwing any blaming fingers at this or that group of person or individual. He just states a law that works in human society. If there is someone that's not happy, if the laws of human society are not in a certain kind of balance that makes everyone satisfied, we need to understand what that means too. But if that doesn't happen, you're always going to be at risk. There's always going to be imbalance. Let's see what he says further. So, if its power is not sufficient, meaning the minority, the people who are not satisfied, whoever they are, to fight the government of the state face to face, it will seek to overthrow it indirectly, such as by inciting countries against each other and bringing them to war. I'm not going to throw any specific examples,
familiar?
But yeah, just ask yourselves, are we not in the midst of all kinds of incitement happening by all kinds of groups, taking advantage of all kinds of situations and things that are happening, maybe even tragedies that are happening, because they are trying to take power in some sort of shape or remove from power some interest and individuals. Okay, for it is natural that at wartime there will be many more dissatisfied people with whom they will have hope to achieve the critical mass to overthrow the government of the state and establish a new leadership that is convenient for them. So in that situation, right, there is the perfect recipe for chaos to take place, because every minority or every group that's not happy is simply trying to fight, and then all these negative destructive forces are simply destabilizing society, even though they each have their own agendas, but they all together work to destabilize society. And so they hope to achieve the critical mass to overthrow the government of the state and establish a new leadership that is convenient for them. That's what they hope. Thus, the well-being of the individual is a direct cause for the well-being of the state. That's rule number one. Our well-beings are completely and totally interdependent. You cannot have a situation where one group is happy and has everything it needs, and another group is miserable or deprived in any shape or form, we're coming to a point where we're so interdependent that these words of Bala Sulam are becoming revealed. We're going to have to come to a point where we take care of everyone's well-being, none excluded. Let's keep going with the quote. So, furthermore, if we take into consideration that always existing part in the state, for whom war is their craft and their every hope of success, such as professional soldiers and suppliers of ammunition, who are always a very prominent minority in terms of social quality, and if we add to them the dissatisfied minority from the current laws, then at any given moment you have a vast amount of people craving war and bloodshed.
Basically, under the surface, so you always have people who are ready for war. Under the surface, you have people who are dissatisfied. Those people who are dissatisfied, if they don't have enough power, they go to outside influences, China or Russia or whoever it is, to instigate. And so you always have these rumblings instead of, and all of that power, all of that energy, if you say that's 1,000 grams of power, 1,000,000 grams, whatever the weight of that amount of force is, take all of the force that's going into the protests today, take all of those people shouting, take all of the feelings going through the police officers, all of that energy now, and imagine, shoom, it was flipped and it was turned towards unity and love. The same amount of power. And what happens is, everybody knows, who's been to a concert, um, or any kind of big event, that when you get a lot of people together, there's this electricity in the air. That unity exists also in protests. You can feel the you can feel kind of the nature of connection in a protest. I mean, people who are looting right now, they might not normally loot, but there's something in the air that kind of changes all the laws, that overrides my mind and makes it okay for me to do things that I wouldn't normally do. For example, I don't normally feel it's okay to love everybody. But if all of a sudden I turned on the TV and looked outside and everybody is just trying to figure out how to love each other, I then want to go outside and be that same emotions that are overtaking people now towards the opposite. We're supposed to use, it's our time now to use that to build something correct. You want to finish this piece here?
Yeah, I'm hoping all the viewers are with us on this, and they're, because we're going through it. Maybe it's their first time for some of them, becoming familiar with the Kabbalistic texts of this sort. And I'm seeing there's all kinds of questions on very different things. So maybe we'll continue with the quote a little bit, Seth, and
Yeah, we're
let's
almost
just
at the end of the quote.
yeah, and let's just tell everyone that we'll try to get to
Yeah, we see there's
your general
questions from
questions
Teddy
as well.
Joe, from Jade, from Kujam, and from Siv. So we can let's finish the quote and
We
we can
will.
get into okay.
Okay, so he says, thus peace in the world and peace in the country are interdependent. Right? So you can't even think of peace in one place. It defies the very definition of peace, according to Kabbalah, because the world is interconnected. It's one thing. Just like in your body, you can't say, the liver can't say, the cells of the liver, just imagine them saying, oh, we have peace between us. It's all good here. It's all great here. It's not going to work if the livers and the kidneys and the heart cells and the mobility cells and everything else doesn't work together in perfect harmony. Guess what? We are a a super organism as well. We are one body. We just don't recognize it. So that's what the Kabbalist sees. Yeah.
He finishes. He says, "We find that even that part of the state which is currently satisfied with their life, maybe the people who are, the 1%ers, they're called. The Baal Salam calls them the nimble and the clever. They still have a lot to be concerned about for the safety of their lives due to the tensions of those who still want to overthrow them. If they understood the value of peace, they would be happy to adopt the conduct of life in this last generation." If we
That's a big
understood,
thing. That's a big thing, though. I mean, we tend to think that there's this minority of people the rich and the powerful, let's say, who are enjoying whatever game we have concocted here on planet Earth, while the rest of us not necessarily, and some are even miserable. But Barsalam says we're going to become so interdependent, so interconnected, that there's not going to be such a thing. You're not going to, it's not going to happen anymore. And that's what's beginning to happen now. Yeah.
When we learn the wisdom of Kabbalah, how we started the show, if you remember, from these 4 phases and seeing everything in this way, we don't feel that somebody is out to get us anymore. We see that the Creator is presenting us, the Creator nature, through this system that we talked about, is presenting us with a problem. And what are we supposed to do here? How are we supposed to correct this? And we don't need to fight anyone. We don't need to fight anything. Let it sink in, dear audience, because each of you here represents millions of people. Literally, you are each from countries everywhere, from a different part of the world. What we're going through together by uniting through this, there's a big power in this. We don't need to fight against anyone. We're not against anything. We just need to explain how the wisdom of Kabbalah shows us how the world is developed. We see now in the United States today, we have socialists, we have communists, we have capitalists, we have homeless who have nothing, we have billionaires. The politicians don't know what to do. The country is falling apart, and the Kabbalists have a plan. They have something that's very, very realistic.
Mm-hmm.
They have a system. It explains exactly how our world developed. It explains where we come from, where we're going. It's all very precise. And all of this hatred there are 4 colors. It's clear they're not the same. They're different. Each one is like, if you had 4 kids, is there one who, this one may be better at singing and this one may be better at cooking? There's no favorites like that. It's all one family. We have to see how these different forces work together and how above our differences we create love. Maybe it's time to get to some questions.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I do see that the questions we have so far are about very different things or general things. So, yeah, I mean, look.
What are you feeling?
Let's take this question from Teddy. Let's see if we can answer this one. So Teddy Joe is asking on YouTube, would it be correct to say when we think we hate ourselves, are we actually hating the ego? Teddy, you want to go? You want to go with this, Seth?
Go for it.
Okay, so, well, we gotta explain what the ego means, right? The ego, according to Kabbalah, is the very fundamental nature of the human being, of any human being. Me and Seth and you and all the rest and everyone in the world. If you're a human being, your fundamental nature is the human ego. That human ego grows throughout history in a very unique and interesting and exponential way. And that is essentially what drives us to climb off the trees and develop through a whole evolutionary chain of desires where we suddenly crave things that other animals don't crave.
If we were totally satisfied, we would never develop anything, right? If we went out, we hunted, we brought something back to our cave. If we were happy with that, that's where the story would end.
Yeah, so that ego is necessary and it's good. It's a driver of development. Without it, we wouldn't develop, like Seth said. On the other hand, it does reach a certain stage in its growth that is the peak. It reaches a point where on the one hand, it is so extreme, we each want to kind of devour the world, if you want to talk about it figuratively, and on the other hand, we also become increasingly interconnected and interdependent. And so these two trends are now reaching a climax, a clashing point. And that is essentially the root of every crisis that we see in the world today. We don't know how to reconcile these two opposite forces working together. Remember, we started the show talking about the opposites. The only way to bring these two opposites together, our interdependence and our egoism, is to develop an additional quality that you can call love, or quality of bestowal, or we call it in Kabbalah the intention of bestowal. And that will allow us to not eliminate the differences, not delete the ego,
works
but
between the ego and the love.
yeah. Go ahead.
Oh no, I wanted to just slide that in there.
You just did it perfectly. That's exactly what it does. It's capable of taking the ego that exists on the one hand and yet direct it to a place where we can fully realize it for the benefit of the whole system.
Teddy, if you stayed as a cat, for example, and you were just, you'd be happy to just sit in the sun and the couch. By the way, I would be very happy to just sit on the couch in the sun all day, but as a cat, she just wants to sit. She just wants to sit on the couch all day. She doesn't need to go anywhere.
You'd make a beautiful cat, Seth.
I would make it. Thank you. So, she at some point she gets hungry. She gets up. She gets a mouse, whatever, and then just lays in the sun. That's where it ends. The reason we have this growing desire inside of us that wants to consume the world is so that we can be filled with all of the upper abundance. We don't want to limit it, but we have to learn how to use it. That specifically, Kabbalah means receive. We have to understand specifically how to receive it. And what is that thing that we put between the desire and the light in order to receive it correctly? Ray asks a very interesting question on Facebook. Ray Wetzel says, are we mistaking anger for hatred? Ray, let's say like this. What are we angry about? Who are we angry about? If the Creator did everything, who are we? No, we may be really angry about this cop who killed this guy, right? It's horrible. It just is, right? But if we wipe the junk out of our eyes, Ray, we saw that happened in every single country for the last thousands of years. And it's happening every single day. It's happening to children. It's happening to women. It's happening to white people. It's happening to black people. It's horrible. What happened is 100% horrible. There is a bigger problem here that, this, for some reason, this one event at this time sparked this, but the anger, it's the same, Ray, it's the same thing. All of that anger, all of that built up power needs to be directed in the right place, because directed now, it can't lead to anything but a war. We're headed for a war.
Exactly.
We're headed for a world war. All of this anger from all of these people trying to fix everything from the past, everyone is going to hold on to their point of view, and we're going to charge forward to World War III unless we get it ahead of this.
It's like, I would say, it's like the human family in the 21st century needs to recognize that we can no longer get a divorce. That's maybe it's unfortunate, you may think, but it's just no longer possible. The world is too small. It's like, there's nowhere to go anymore. We were at some point in history, we were just 100 years ago, we were 2 billion people. Now we are 4 times that number. There has never been such an exponential increase of growth in human population. And we've covered already every area of the planet, and we've connected ourselves to each other across the globe through all the possible mediums, whether it's transportation or trade and commerce or the internet. And our infrastructures are now interdependent. You can no longer provide for your needs without needing the entire world to do so. That's how we work today. Yeah, go ahead.
So we had the virus, right? I guess everyone forgot about that. We weren't allowed to go near anybody. I saw actually there was a news thing that came out Friday night, preparing Americans for the weekend. You were allowed to have a barbecue with up to 12 people, but you were allowed to protest with up to 100 people. So I sent a message to all my family, if you want to get together for a barbecue, you need to have like a protest sign, because we had the virus. We forgot about the virus real quick, and now we went into the race riots. And next is going to be probably what you said, trade, right? Trade. All the countries starting to really posture themselves and
you know what? Yeah, and let's get into that more if we want to as well. But we you mentioned, that we forgot about the virus, and from looking at, thousands of people on top of each other in protests, we definitely did.
Every
But
city in every.
but the virus didn't forget about us. The virus is alive, and we're right now. If you look at numbers and things that are happening, there's definitely an increase in many countries. I know here in Israel, there's about 50 schools were just closed because there were eruptions. Check this out. There's a let me actually show you this. I find this interesting. Check it out. There's this. Can you see this?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So in the Netherlands, they're gonna kill 10,000 mink now, because this is like the first identified situation where we know of an animal to human transmission for sure, and it happened twice, where that animal, that little cute mink, infected two people. Now, what are they doing? They don't know exactly what to do. We don't know really what to do about this virus.
Everybody's confused.
Everyone's confused. There's also now testimonials of people who were infected by the virus, recovered, but they didn't get their sense of taste back, or their sense of smell. And researchers are saying that they're seeing now that they didn't know, but the COVID actually affects our brains in a way that we didn't understand, and our central nervous system. And this virus is shape-shifting and mutating in ways that we don't understand. We are far from being, over this virus.
We need to make this show into a 2-hour show, because this is 1 hour is not enough. I see all the questions.
All right, let's go to questions.
Here's a good one from Jade Ugam. And on YouTube. By the way, if you ask a question, if you can, you probably already told us where you're from, but when you ask a question, tell us where you're from. To be just make everybody feel just what kind of connection is going here. So Jade Ugam on YouTube is asking, what about hell?
Hell?
Hell's
an interesting concept. Okay. Well, heaven, hell, according to the wisdom of Kabbalah, these are not concepts that you may, that are interpreted maybe in the way that is commonly interpreted. They're not places where you go after your physical, organic, protein-based body
place
dies.
You go from 9 to 5. I'm just kidding.
No, there are these terms if you want to use them, but the correct interpretations of them are essentially connection and disconnection from that life force of nature, the quality of bestowal. If you'll see anywhere in Kabbalistic texts the word hell being used, then the right way to interpret it as disconnection from the higher, deeper force of bestowal that governs all nature.
The total dominion of the ego, where we feel the whole world is against us, where we feel we're even against ourselves.
So maybe we are in hell right now, Seth.
Yeah, we're getting close.
The good news, however, is that there's no worse place to go to. We're in the worst there is. We can only go up from here. Yeah.
We have a few more on our global check. Bright wrote that we also have Mexico, Massachusetts, Northern California, and the Philippines.
Hello,
Philippines. Wow, that is far from here. There's a few questions. L is asking, what can I add? What am I possibly supposed to do? A few people are saying, how do we? So, okay, I agree. It's got to be love. I'm not sure what this thing is, what this love is that you're talking about yet. But I mean, I love my kids. I love my spouse. But what is this love you're talking about? And what are we supposed to do? Oh, and Colombia. Thank you, Bright. What are we supposed to do? Okay, we have people here from all over the whole world. They agree, Asaf. They agree. There's a system. Nature has some format. Okay, we got the 4-letter name. We got the 4 phases of direct light. We got the 4 colors of humanity. We even have the 4 chambers of the heart. Okay, I understand. There's a process here. I agree with you. Nature made us different. Not only that, nature made us so that we even hate each other. So, okay, so we have to love. So how? What am I supposed to do? Where? Can I sign up somewhere? How do I do it? Is it $50 a month? What? Just tell me. What should I do?
Okay. I would
What do I
say,
do?
I would say, look, there's really two parts to this answer. We can talk to an individual who is looking for spiritual growth and transformation. And in this case, I would say love is not just something it's not anything that we know. It's not something that we have ever practiced before. It's not something that comes to someone natural and someone else it doesn't. None of us has that quality called love from birth. We need to develop it. And it takes an evolution of the human mind and the human heart. And to be very pragmatic about it, we need to learn what it is. There's not going to be a choice. We're going to have to educate ourselves. If you're a spiritual seeker, then you have a path, you have an advantage because you have your own conscious desire to go forward, and you can go ahead and start learning how to surround yourself with the right environment where that quality can grow within you. That's essentially what you need to do. Now, the second part of this answer, I would say, if you're looking at when will the world change, when will human society change, like it or not, we're all interdependent. We're in this together. So even if you or Seth or me are very advanced in our spiritual transformation, we're still connected to the rest of humanity. We're all one big global family. And this whole family has to change. And from the Kabbalistic lens, through the Kabbalistic lens, what needs to happen with the world is a huge, major cultural transformation where our economics needs to change, our society needs to change. We just heard from Kabbalist Yehuda Ashlag that until the laws of society don't come into balance with the laws of nature, and thereby providing a situation, creating a situation where everyone is satisfied, beginning with their basic needs, by the way, until that happens, humanity as a whole will not be able to develop further. And so there's an intertwined process here that needs to happen. The people who have this unique inkling, this desire for spiritual growth, they need to go forward, and they're the trailblazers, and they are you, the people who are watching this show, the people who are feeling this around the world and haven't found us yet, the people who want to go forward and and bring the opposites together and create the next level of evolution. And then the rest of the human society has to change its infrastructure. We're going to have to do away with all kinds of staples of modern human society, like how our economy works and how the future of work, it's going to be something completely different. We're consuming and we're producing, maybe 80% of what we're producing today is garbage that no one actually needs, and all it does is serve some people at the top who are filling their pockets with some extra money and perpetuating this paradigm through regulating all kinds of laws in between the government and Wall Street and so on. That whole thing is going to have to change as well. Now, I'm not advocating socialism here. That's the knee-jerk reaction, right, Seth, that will come to mind of every modern person. Oh, that's what it's all about. No, but there's going to be a new connected way of life where we take care of our well-beings in an organized way, where we take care of everyone in the world. And people, in exchange for being provided all they need, they're going to have to engage in that transformation towards becoming more loving towards each other, connected human beings, discovering how to call upon that connecting force of nature by conscious choice. All of humanity will have to do that. It's going to be a cultural revolution, a whatever, a spiritual renaissance, call it however you want. It needs to happen. It has to happen. It is inevitable. The question is, are we going to have to go through another world war for it to happen? Or are we going to lead the way with conscious transformation and get ahead of the blows that nature is setting up for us?
These issues always become very overwhelming because the person agrees and then they want to do something, and the problem just seems so huge. And so, Shira and Yvette, we will do our best now to answer your questions, but we have to remember again and again, we're not alone. We're not alone. Look at how COVID came, and in like 2 weeks, the whole world shut down. Look at how one thing happened with one police officer, and then bam, riots around the whole world. There is another force that happens. It happens in lovemaking. It happens in a concert. It happens in a big sports event, where everybody starts to feel this other power that's there. So we have to, that is the force that we want to align ourselves with. And when you have crowds out in the street rioting like that, protesting like that, if you're amongst them, you feel some power there. There is power in unity, even if it's not towards love. If it's towards love, it has another quality to it as well. But just the nature of bringing people together under one flag, it brings that. So Shira is saying, pragmatically speaking, can you recommend some action steps? So Shira, first things first, a baby doesn't even know she's in the world with anybody, right? She comes out and she's born, and she doesn't even know there's a mom. She doesn't know there's where she begins, where she ends. At some point, she looks at her mom and smiles for the first time. That's our first action right now. We're still at that action to just understand what nature is doing. Where am I? What's happening? And then I know if all of my neighbors are going out and my brother and sister are going out to a protest and I'm going to go with them, okay. But I know inside of me also that I'm part of a bigger system. I'm not just part of some thing that's happening in the street right now, but I'm part of a bigger system that includes all of humanity. That's really our first step, because Shira, what we're talking about, where every single person in creation, where every single person on the earth has enough of everything and everybody feels love, we don't know what that's going to look like, because it's never happened before. It happened before we incarnated, so to speak, before we clothed into matter. We were all one. Now that we are all clothed in matter, it's never happened before. We are the ones who are going to actualize that. That's what we're in the process of. So the first thing we need to do, like anything else, like before you build a house, you plan it out. Before you call someone, you think about, what am I going to say? Or at least you get into the emotion of what I'm going to say. That's what we're in now, is the mind, kind of the emotion of where we're going.
There's a question from Yvette here from YouTube that I want to take. I think it'll also help. It'll also help Shira land as well. I think so. Yvette says, "Wait, if it's so hard for us as Kabbalists or students of Kabbalah to achieve the purpose of loving unselfishly, how will the rest of the world achieve it?" Great question. I would say this: Yvette, do you know how to use your microwave? I'm guessing you say yes. Do you know how to use your washing machine? I'm guessing you say yes. Do you know how to use your phone? Probably yes, right? But most likely you don't really know how it works, right? Moreover, you probably don't exactly know the laws of physics and chemistry upon which all these devices are built. You haven't been there, probably part of those very specific people, in science and engineering, who are there putting together the sets of laws that are required and did all the experiments that are required to later create the devices. But you do know how to push a button on a microwave and heat up your cup of whatever it is, your soup, okay? Or turn on your washing machine. My point is that this process of spiritual transformation that we're going through in humanity is happening like a pyramid. Again, like Seth said in the beginning, all of humanity is divided to 4 degrees, to 4 levels: still, vegetative, animate, and human. That exists in humanity as well with regards to the spiritual process.
Within humanity, you also have 4.
Yeah. And so you, Yvette, are most likely from the higher levels of that pyramid when it comes to spiritual transformation. Now, ultimately, we're all
Asaf,
equal.
hold on. Time
Yeah.
out for a second.
Yeah.
We talked about the 4 colors of humanity. That this is something else.
Yeah.
Any color person can be at the highest part of the pyramid. We're talking now spiritually. We're not talking
Just
about skin color.
yeah, right. So
Any color. Yeah.
Absolutely. Spiritually speaking, we are a spiritual entity that is also divided to 4 degrees of development. So some people develop first, some people develop later, and some people develop last. And those who develop first are fewer, much less than those who develop afterwards. So the kind of work that we need to do as those who feel this desire for spiritual growth, for spiritual love, as the pioneers, is very different. And that is comparable to, we need to go into the hardcore of the spiritual system and understand how it works and really experience it from practical attainment and become one with it. But then for the rest of humanity, it could be as simple as just going to school for a couple years and just going through the program. It could be as simple as playing a video game, literally, that helps them expand their mind and expand their heart. It could be a different kind of advertising system. We're talking about this system, this method, this spiritual transformation. It needs to clothe into our world in various shapes and forms that, like Seth said, we don't know exactly how it will look. But these devices will have to be built because humanity, all of it, has to change. There's not going to be a choice. We're going to have to inevitably become consciously connected to each other and build a whole new society here that does that on a regular basis. What do we do, Seth? We have a couple minutes left.
I saw this question here from Stacia I wanted to get to. She says, Stacia Kennett on YouTube says, is there a tipping point where enough of us get it and then it goes viral? Can the laws of society change and lead the way? Stacia, this is exactly what Asaf was just saying. It will become, and the question that we just answered, yes, it will become. This is a virus. We can really learn from that. It's like a virus of love, and it will infect people. That is exactly the correct metaphor.
Absolutely. And when you're watching the show, and when a bunch of people from, what do we have here, like 40 countries maybe, when people right now are watching this show and going through these inner shifts in attitude and inner scrutinies and changes in the mind and heart, it may not be seen to the external eye, but we are activating the engine in humanity from within. We're changing the world by changing ourselves. That's a whole other topic that you should learn, and we should discuss it, and that'll help a lot of the questions of what do I do and what I'm supposed to do, because you're doing it as you're going through it. But yeah.
Okay, everyone, thank you so much for being with us. I see there's more questions we didn't get to. David Mancini needs to know how to use his microwave. David, maybe you could Google that. Roy, thank you for being with us. Awesome questions, and it would be great to get deeper into it. Reynard Heist from South Africa. So let's let everybody know now that our show is going to change formats a little bit. We learned a lot from being here with you for the last almost 35, 40 shows or something. We're going to be now Thursday and Sunday, right, Asaf?
No, Sunday and Thursday. Yeah.
Okay, Sunday and Thursday. For you, the week starts on Sunday. For us, it starts on Monday. Okay, so we will be here Thursday and Sunday from 2 p.m. Eastern to 3 p.m. Eastern. We may actually extend the time of the show, but that depends on what your needs are, you meaning everybody here with us.
And help us think of the name, you guys. I know that some of you have heard it. I'll just say it very quickly in 10 seconds, okay? We started this as, together with the whole quarantine situation. Seth and I were both suddenly home. We said, hey, let's go live. And everyone else was home. But now the world is developing. We're going out of quarantine, maybe back into quarantine. And obviously there's a bigger thing that's happening here beyond just this virus that sparked this new level of human evolution that is happening right now. So we want to come up with like a name that fits it as well. Help us. Tell us what you think it should be. Just write it anywhere in the comments, whatever you come up with. Even after the show as well. Go back to the same post. We'll read it. Yeah. So
Ray says, for some reason, the Tower of Babel keeps coming to mind. Why? Ray, I wish we had more time to get into this. This is
good
this is
point.
where the wisdom developed. This is where the method of Kabbalah came from. This is basically what we see in America now. It's like kind of the same cycle coming around again. There's so much to talk about. You are all doing it. We are doing it together, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. This is a very qualitatively powerful force we're generating here from all around the globe. Thank you. Be strong. Let us know your thoughts. You can always send comments in here. We're reading them. And we'll see you Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern. Bye, Saf. Bye, everybody.
Goodbye, everyone. Let's sing together, if you will.